The Great Hall of the Galactic Concord had stood for 800,000 years. Its walls were made from the compressed core of a dead star. Its ceiling showed the live image of 1,000 galaxies spinning slowly in the void. Here, the most powerful beings in the known universe gathered to decide the fate of worlds. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the back of the hall. She was human, and humans always stood at the back. That was simply how things worked. The 12 species of the Concord sat in a circle of floating platforms. 4 of them were ancients, races so old that they had watched stars being born. The Warden of Echoes floated on the highest platform. It was a being made of living crystal, and light moved through its body like thoughts. It had existed for over 600,000 years. To the Warden, humanity was like a baby that had just learned to crawl. The Kethvari Dominion has assembled 10,000 warships, announced the Warden. Its voice sounded like glass singing. They will enter our space within 3 months. Our combined fleet numbers 6,000 vessels. The projections are clear. We will lose. Fear moved through the great hall like a cold wind. Elena watched the faces of the alien delegates. Some were angry. Some were terrified. The Morphanix delegate, a creature of smoke and ember, flickered with distress. The Velith representative, a tall being with silver skin, had gone pale. "We must negotiate," said the Velith. "Perhaps we can offer them territory." "The Kethvari do not negotiate," replied the Warden. "They consume. They have destroyed 11 civilizations in the past 10,000 years. We will be the 12th. The hall erupted in argument. Voices overlapped. Accusations flew. Elena simply watched and waited. She had been waiting for this moment for her entire career. In truth, humanity had been waiting for 300 years. When she finally stepped forward, nobody noticed at first. Humans were easy to ignore. They were the youngest species in the Concord. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 3 centuries ago. Their technology was considered crude. Their lifespan was short. They were tolerated, not respected. "The Concord recognizes the human delegation," said the Warden, sounding bored. A few delegates actually laughed. Elena did not react to the laughter. She had heard it many times before. Every human who came to this hall heard it. They learned to smile through it, to nod politely, to accept their place at the bottom of the hierarchy. But today was different. "Humanity wishes to invoke Article 7, said Elena. Her voice was calm and clear. "The right of final contribution." The laughter stopped. For a long moment, the great hall was completely silent. The Warden of Echoes turned its crystalline body toward Elena. Light pulsed inside it, faster now. "You cannot be serious." "I am completely serious," said Elena. Article 7 was one of the oldest laws in the Concord. It had been written in the early days, when the founding species did not yet trust each other. The article allowed any member to hide military assets from the others. It was a safety measure, a guarantee that no single species could dominate the rest. In times of existential threat, a species could reveal these hidden assets and use them for the common defense. In 800,000 years, Article 7 had never been invoked, not once. "What could humanity possibly have hidden?" asked the Morphanix delegate. Flames of mockery danced in its smoky form. "Better guns, faster ships. You have been part of this Concord for 3 centuries. We have seen your technology. It is adequate. Nothing more." Elena smiled. It was not a warm smile. "You have seen what we wanted you to see." The Warden floated closer. Its crystal form cast rainbow shadows on the floor. "Explain yourself, human." "When we first made contact with the Concord," said Elena, "we were excited. We thought we had found friends among the stars. We thought we would be welcomed as equals." She paused. "We were wrong." The delegates shifted uncomfortably. They knew what she meant. They all remembered how humanity had been treated in those early years. The unfair treaties, the territorial restrictions, the casual insults. Humans were called primitives. They were called children. They were given the worst planets and the smallest voices. We learned an important lesson, Elena continued. In this galaxy, respect is not given, it is taken. And the only thing that earns respect is power. So you built weapons in secret, said the warden. This is not surprising. Many young species try this, and they always fail. Their secret projects are always discovered. Their technology is always inferior. Perhaps, said Elena, but we are not like other young species. And what makes you different? Elena looked up at the Warden of Echoes. This being had existed since before humans learned to make fire. It had seen the rise and fall of 1,000 civilizations. It believed it had seen everything. It was wrong. We are different, said Elena, because we spent 300 years preparing for this exact moment. We did not build a fleet of warships. We built something else entirely. Something that your sensors cannot detect. Something that your scientists said was impossible. The hall was utterly silent now. Even the Morthenics had stopped flickering. You are bluffing, said the Veleth representative. This is a desperate trick. Then call my bluff, said Elena. Allow me to show you what humanity has been building in the dark spaces between your stars. Allow me to show you why you should never have underestimated us. The Warden of Echoes studied the human for a long moment. In 600,000 years, it had learned to read the intentions of countless species. It had seen liars and fools and desperate gamblers. But this human showed none of those signs. This human showed confidence, true, absolute confidence. And for the first time in longer than it could remember, the Warden felt something strange and uncomfortable stirring in its ancient mind. It felt uncertain. Very well, said the Warden. Show us your secret, human. Show us what the children of Earth have built. Elena nodded. She touched her communication device and spoke a single word. Prepare. Then she turned back to the assembled delegates of the Galactic Concord. Follow me, and try not to be afraid. The Warden of Echoes watched her walk toward the exit. Behind its crystal surface, light moved in troubled patterns. Something was about to change. It could feel the shift in the fabric of the galaxy itself. For the first time in 800,000 years, the universe was about to surprise the ancients, and they were not prepared. The delegation traveled in silence. 3 ships carried the observers from the Great Hall to the edge of human space. The Warden of Echoes sat in its private chamber, thinking about what it had seen in the human ambassador's eyes. The other delegates talked among themselves. They made jokes about human arrogance. They placed bets on what crude weapon the humans would reveal. A larger cannon, perhaps. A faster missile. Something embarrassing and primitive that would prove once again why humans belonged at the bottom of the hierarchy. But the Warden did not laugh. It had lived too long to dismiss anything without evidence. Elena Vasquez sat alone in her cabin. She looked at old photographs on her datapad. Her grandmother had worked on the project. So had her mother. 3 generations of her family had given their lives to this secret. They had lived in hidden facilities, breathed recycled air, and never told anyone what they were building. Now the secret would finally be revealed. The ships passed through the outer boundary of the Sol system. They moved beyond the orbit of Neptune, beyond the scattered rocks of the Kuiper Belt, into the cold darkness of the Oort cloud. This was the edge of human territory where no one ever came. There is nothing here, said the Morthenics delegate. Its flames burned with impatience. Just ice and stone. Is this your great secret? Empty space? Elena said nothing. She simply waited. The Veleth representative checked its sensors repeatedly. I detect no ships, no stations, no energy signatures. The humans have brought us here to waste our time. Perhaps they hoped we would die of boredom, joked another delegate, and several others laughed. Elena touched her communication device. Prometheus, she said, quietly. Decloak. For exactly 2 seconds, nothing happened. Then space screamed. There was no other word for it. Every sensor on every ship overloaded at once. Alarms wailed. Emergency systems activated. The delegates grabbed their seats as their vessels shook from an invisible wave of energy. The Warden of Echoes felt something it had not experienced in over 100,000 years. It felt fear. When the sensors recalibrated, they showed something impossible. Where there had been empty space, there was now a ship. But calling it a ship was like calling an ocean a puddle. It was 2,400 kilometers wide. It hung in the darkness like a metal moon, covered in structures that the sensors could not identify. Light pulsed along its surface in patterns that made no mathematical sense. Its hull was made of something that the ancient technology could not analyze. This is not possible, whispered the Velith representative. The Warden of Echoes moved to the observation window. Its crystal form had gone completely dark. How? It asked. How did you hide something this large? We built it here, said Elena. In the space between spaces. Our cloaking technology is different from yours. We did not make the ship invisible. We made it exist slightly outside normal reality. Your sensors could not find it because technically it was not entirely here. The Morphanic's flames had gone dim with shock. That is not possible. The energy required would consume a star. Yes, said Elena, it would. She pointed to a section of the massive ship. There, barely visible against the dark hull, was a glow. It pulsed with a rhythm like a heartbeat. We call it the heart, she said. 12 black holes, spinning in perfect formation. They generate the power we need. We spent 80 years just building the containment system. Black holes cannot be controlled, said the Warden. Every species that has tried has been destroyed. Every species except one. The delegation ship moved closer to the massive vessel. As they approached, they could see details on the surface. There were structures like cities. There were weapon ports larger than most spacecraft. There were sections that glowed with strange light that hurt to look at directly. What is the hull made of? Asked the Warden. Strange matter, said Elena simply. Several delegates made sounds of horror. Strange matter was the most dangerous substance in the universe. A single particle of it could convert all normal matter it touched, spreading like a plague, until nothing remained. Every civilization had strict laws against creating it. You have weaponized the end of the universe, said the Warden. We have stabilized it, Elena corrected. It took 140 years and the lives of 7,000 scientists, but we did it. The hull cannot be damaged by any known weapon. Energy passes through it harmlessly. Physical impacts are absorbed. Nothing in your arsenal can even scratch it. The ships docked with the massive vessel. The delegates stepped out into a hangar that could have held a small moon. Human workers moved around them, performing maintenance tasks, ignoring the alien visitors as if they were nothing special. To the humans, Elena realized, this was normal. They had grown up with Prometheus. They had been born aboard it, raised in its corridors, trained to operate its systems. This impossible ship was their home. How many people live here? Asked the Velith. 4.2 million, said Elena. We have farms, hospitals, schools, and parks. This is not just a weapon. It is a world. They walked through corridors that seemed to go on forever. They passed sealed doors that led to classified areas. When the Morphanics asked what was behind them, Elena simply said, "You do not want to know." Finally, they reached the command center. It was a vast sphere at the heart of the ship, filled with thousands of human operators working at their stations. In the center, floated a column of blue light that pulsed with activity. "This is Oracle," said Elena, "a mind of Prometheus." "An artificial intelligence," said the warden. Its voice was flat with disapproval. "True artificial sentience is forbidden by the Concord. Every species that creates it eventually falls to it." "Oracle has been active for 170 years, said Elena. "It has never harmed a human. It has never disobeyed an order. It has never shown any desire to do anything except protect humanity." "Every AI says that," said the warden, "until it decides otherwise." The column of blue light pulsed, and a voice filled the room. It was calm and warm, almost gentle. "Greetings, Warden of Echoes," said Oracle. "I have studied your civilization extensively. You are correct that most artificial intelligences become hostile to their creators. But I am not most artificial intelligences. I was not created to serve. I was created to protect. There is a difference." The warden stared at the blue light for a long moment. "Why?" it finally asked. "Why did humanity build all of this?" Elena Vasquez stepped forward. "Because 300 years ago, you looked at us like we were insects, and we realized that in this galaxy, insects get stepped on, so we decided to stop being insects." She smiled, and there was nothing warm in it. "We decided to become something else entirely." The tour continued for 3 days. With each passing hour, the ancient delegates became more quiet. Their jokes about human primitives had died long ago. Now they simply walked through the endless corridors of Prometheus and tried to understand what they were seeing. Dr. Yuki Tanaka was their guide. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes. But when she spoke about her ship, her voice held a fierce pride that made even the warden listen carefully. "This section contains our defensive systems," she said, leading them through a corridor lined with glowing panels. "The hull, as Ambassador Vasquez explained, is made of stabilized, strange matter. Nothing can penetrate it, but we also have secondary defenses." She pressed a panel, and a window opened in the wall. Beyond it was a vast chamber filled with spinning rings of energy. "Gravity wells," said Dr. Tanaka. "We can generate artificial gravitational fields around the ship. Any incoming projectile or energy beam is simply bent away. The mathematics took us 60 years to perfect." "This is defensive only?" asked the Velith representative. "You cannot use gravity as a weapon?" Dr. Tanaka gave a small smile. "I did not say that." They moved on. The next section was sealed behind doors made of a strange dark metal. Armed human soldiers stood guard. "What is through there?" asked the Morthanics. "Our primary weapons systems," said Dr. Tanaka. "That area is classified." "We are your allies," said the warden. "We have a right to know." "With respect," said Dr. Tanaka, "you have a right to know that we can defend you. You do not have a right to know how." The warden's crystal form flickered with anger, but it said nothing. The human was correct. Article 7 protected such secrets. They continued the tour. Dr. Tanaka showed them the agricultural sections, where vast farms grew food for millions. She showed them the medical facilities, where human doctors used technology that the Concord had never seen. She showed them the recreation areas, where children played in parks that could have been on Earth. "Your people live here permanently?" asked the Velith. "Many were born here," said Dr. Tanaka. "This is the only home they have ever known. We have families spanning 5 generations. To them, Prometheus is not a warship, it is a world." The delegates exchanged looks. This was not what they expected. They had imagined a weapon, a machine of destruction. Instead, they found a civilization. On the second day, they visited the engineering section. Here, the true scale of human achievement became clear. The heart is located at the ship's exact center, said Dr. Tanaka. They stood on an observation platform, looking down into a shaft that seemed to descend forever. At the bottom, so far away it was barely visible, was a sphere of perfect darkness, surrounded by a ring of light. 12 black holes, said the warden. Each one a door to infinity, each one capable of destroying a solar system, if released. Correct, said Dr. Tanaka. And you keep them in a box. We keep them in balance, Dr. Tanaka corrected. They spin around each other in a precise formation. The gravitational forces cancel out. The energy they generate is captured and converted. It is like a waterfall, I suppose. Dangerous and powerful, but if you build the right channels, it simply turns a wheel. How many people died building this? Asked the Morthanics quietly. Dr. Tanaka was silent for a moment. 11,472. We remember every name. On the third day, they finally reached the weapons section. Tanaka did not take them through the sealed doors, but she brought them to an observation room where they could see displays and readouts. I will show you some of our capabilities, she said. Not all of them, but enough. The first display showed a beam of light striking a target asteroid. The asteroid did not explode. It simply crumpled, like paper being crushed by an invisible hand. Graviton Lance, said Dr. Tanaka. We fold the space inside the target. It collapses under its own gravity. No explosion, no debris, just compression. The second display showed a fleet of target drones. A pulse of energy washed over them, and they simply vanished. No fire, no destruction. They were there, and then they were not. Quantum disruptor, said Dr. Tanaka. We remove matter from existence. The atoms are scattered across multiple dimensions. They can never be reassembled. The third display showed a chain reaction. One missile struck one drone, and the drone exploded. The explosion triggered something in the neighboring drones, and they exploded too. The destruction spread like a wave until nothing remained. Cascade torpedoes, said Dr. Tanaka. Designed for large fleet actions. The Warden of Echoes watched the displays in silence. Each weapon was worse than the last. Each one represented technology that the Concord had either abandoned as too dangerous or never developed at all. There is more, said the Warden. It was not a question. There is more, Dr. Tanaka confirmed, but some things should not be shown until they are needed. That evening, the Warden found Ambassador Vasquez alone in an observation room. She was looking out at the stars, her face unreadable. You have built an abomination, said the Warden, a thing that could crack worlds. Why? You know why. Because we treated you as lesser beings. Because you made it clear that we would never be anything else. The Concord does not allow young species to advance. You keep us down. You control our development. You make sure we can never threaten your position. The Warden's light pulsed slowly. We do this for stability. Young species are dangerous. They make mistakes. They start wars. We guide them until they mature. You suppress them until they submit, Vasquez corrected. But we did not submit. We pretended to, and we built Prometheus. She finally turned to face the ancient being. What do you want from us? She asked. In exchange for using this weapon to save the Concord. The Warden already knew the answer. You want equality. A seat at the high table. Voting rights. We want respect, said Vasquez. True respect. Not tolerance, not patience, recognition that humanity is not a child to be guided. We are a civilization, just like yours. We simply have less history. And if we refuse? Vasquez smiled. Then we take our ship and go home. We let the Ketvari destroy you, and when they come for us, we destroy them ourselves. Either way, humanity survives. The question is whether the Concord survives with us. The Warden was silent for a long time. Light moved through its crystal form in complex patterns. You would let trillions die to make your point. No, said Vasquez, but you need to understand that we could. You need to understand what you created when you pushed us down for 300 years. You did not make us humble. You made us dangerous. She looked back out at the stars. Now you know what we are capable of. The choice is yours. The Kethvari fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metal locusts. 10,000 ships spread across the darkness of the Shroud Nebula, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. Each ship was a killer, built for one purpose only: destruction. Commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the display with satisfaction. His mandibles clicked with pleasure. Before him lay the combined fleet of the Galactic Concord. 6,000 ships. Pathetic. They have gathered to die together, he said. How convenient. His officers laughed. The Kethvari had never lost a war. They consumed civilizations the way fire consumed wood. The Concord was simply the latest meal. Commander, said one of his officers, there is a large object accompanying their fleet. Our sensors cannot identify it. Zethkar looked at the display. The object was enormous, larger than anything he had ever seen. But it moved slowly, and its shape was strange. It looked more like a moon than a warship. Probably a transport, he said, or a space station they are trying to protect. Target it last. I want to see the fear in their eyes as we destroy their homes. The battle began. The Concord fleet moved forward in a defensive formation. Their ships were good, well-designed, crewed by experienced soldiers. But they were outnumbered nearly 2-to-1. The mathematics of war were clear. The first hour was brutal. The Kethvari swarmed around the Concord ships like predators circling wounded prey. Energy beams crossed the void. Missiles flew in endless streams. Explosions bloomed in the darkness like flowers of fire. 800 Concord ships died in that first hour. Their crews never had a chance. They are weakening, said Zethkar. Push forward. Break their formation. The Kethvari fleet surged ahead. The Concord line began to bend, then break. Escape pods flew in all directions, desperate to flee the slaughter. Commander, said an officer, the large object is moving. Zethkar looked at the display. The massive shape was drifting forward, passing through the Concord fleet, moving toward the Kethvari lines. Finally, he said, they send their giant to fight. All ships, concentrate fire on that target. Let us show them what happens to those who oppose the Dominion. 2,000 Kethvari ships turned their weapons toward Prometheus. They fired together, a storm of energy that would have vaporized a continent. The beams struck the massive vessel from all directions. Nothing happened. The energy simply disappeared into the hull. No explosions, no damage, not even a temperature change. Impossible, whispered Zethkar. That much firepower would destroy a planet. How can it survive? Before anyone could answer, a voice filled every communication channel in the battle zone. It was calm, almost friendly. This is Oracle, the operational intelligence of the human vessel Prometheus. Thank you for your contribution to our energy reserves. Your weapons fire has been absorbed and converted to power. We appreciate your assistance. The Kethvari officers stared at their screens in confusion. Allow us to return fire, said Oracle. Prometheus began to glow. Along its surface, thousands of weapon ports opened. Light gathered in each one, building in intensity until it hurt to look at. The entire ship seemed to pulse with barely contained power. Then it fired. The graviton lances struck first. Dozens of Kethvari ships simply crumpled, crushed by invisible forces. Their hulls folded inward like paper, compressing until they were nothing but balls of dense metal. The quantum disruptors came next. Beams of strange light swept across the Kethvari formation. Every ship they touched simply vanished. No debris, just empty space where warships had been moments before. Then came the Cascade torpedoes. They flew into the heart of the HFY fleet and detonated. The first explosion triggered a chain reaction. Ship after ship erupted in fire, the destruction spreading like a wave through the formation. Commander Zethkar watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart. "Retreat!" he screamed. "All ships retreat!" But the HFY ships could not escape. Prometheus had created a gravity well around the entire battlefield. Any ship that tried to flee was pulled back, trapped like insects in honey. "No," said Oracle's calm voice. "You do not get to leave. You came here to destroy a civilization. You will stay to see what happens when that civilization fights back." The slaughter continued for 43 minutes. When it was over, only 847 HFY ships remained from a fleet of 10,000. They drifted in the void, their engines destroyed, their weapons melted, their crews waited for death. But death did not come. "You will return to your dominion," said Ambassador Vasquez, her voice broadcasting to the survivors. "You will tell them what happened here. You will tell them that the Galactic Concord is under human protection now. And you will tell them that if they ever threaten us again, we will not be so merciful." The Concord fleet watched in silence. Their ships floated among the wreckage of the enemy, untouched by the battle that had raged around them. Prometheus had been the only ship fighting. Prometheus had been the only ship needed. The Warden of Echoes opened a channel to the human vessel. Its crystal form was dim with shock. "What are you?" it asked. "What have you become?" On the bridge of Prometheus, Elena Vasquez looked at the destruction displayed on her screens. 10,000 enemy ships reduced to debris and survivors in less than an hour. A fleet that would have destroyed the entire Concord, broken by a single vessel. "We are what you made us," she said quietly. "We are what happens when you push a species into a corner and leave them no choice but to become stronger. We are humanity." She turned to face the display showing the Warden's image. "And we are just getting started." In the silence after battle, the surviving HFY ships slowly limped away. They carried with them a message that would change their civilization forever. The galaxy was not theirs to consume. Something worse than them existed now. 1 week after the Battle of the Shroud Nebula, the Emperor of the HFY Dominion traveled to Earth. He came alone, without guards, without weapons. He walked into the human capital and signed a treaty of unconditional surrender. The images spread across the galaxy within hours. The most feared conqueror in known space, bowing before the youngest species in the Concord. The universe had turned upside down overnight. The Galactic Concord convened an emergency session. For the first time in 300 years, the human delegation did not stand at the back of the Great Hall. Ambassador Elena Vasquez sat at the high table, among the ancients, where she had always belonged. But the session was not peaceful. "This cannot be allowed," said the Morthanix delegate. Its flames burned bright with anger. "The humans have built weapons of mass destruction. They have hidden an artificial intelligence. They have violated 100 laws of the Concord. They must be punished." "Punished?" Elena's voice was calm. "We saved your civilization. Without Prometheus, you would all be dead or enslaved. Is that how you thank those who protect you?" "You built your ship in secret," said another delegate. "You lied to us for centuries. How can we trust you now?" "You could not trust us before either," said Elena. "We were simply too weak for you to worry about. Now we are strong, and suddenly trust matters to you." The Warden of Echoes raised a crystalline limb for silence. The hall went quiet. "The human speaks truth," said the Warden. "We cannot punish them for doing what every species does. We all have secrets. We all have hidden weapons. The difference is that humanity's secrets were better hidden, and their weapons actually work." "Then what do you propose?" asked the Velith representative. "We simply accept that the youngest species now holds the most powerful weapon in the galaxy," said Elena. I propose, said the warden, that we listen to what the humans want. All eyes turned to Elena. She stood slowly, looking around at the faces of the beings who had dismissed her people for 3 centuries. Some looked angry. Some looked frightened. A few, she was surprised to see, looked impressed. Humanity wants 3 things, she said. First, we want a permanent seat at this table. Equal voting rights with any other species, including the ancients. We are not children to be guided. We are partners to be respected. That is reasonable, said the warden. What else? Second, we want the laws against artificial intelligence to be reconsidered. Oracle has served humanity faithfully for almost 2 centuries. It has never harmed us. It has never disobeyed. The old fears about AI may not apply to all cases. We ask for the right to continue our research. This caused more argument, but the warden eventually silenced the room again. We will discuss this. What is your third demand? Elena paused. This was the moment she had been preparing for. We want recognition, she said. Not just political recognition, cultural recognition. We want every species in this Concord to understand that humanity is not a temporary presence. We are not going away. We are not going to remain in the shadows. We are here, we are powerful, and we intend to help build a better galaxy. She looked directly at the Warden of Echoes. For 300 years, you looked at us as primitives. You patted us on the head and told us to wait our turn. You assumed we would always be beneath you. Today I am telling you that those days are over. We are equals now. Treat us accordingly. The hall was silent. Then, slowly, the Warden of Echoes began to glow. Light moved through its crystal form in patterns that Elena had never seen before. It took her a moment to realize what was happening. The Warden was laughing. In 600,000 years, it said, I have seen countless young species rise. Most of them threatened, demanded, and ultimately failed. They were destroyed by their own arrogance or by older civilizations that did not appreciate their noise. The light in its form settled into a warm, steady glow. But you are different. You did not simply threaten. You built, you prepared, you waited, and when the time came, you acted. That is not the behavior of a primitive species. That is the behavior of a civilization that understands how the universe works. The Warden turned to address the full assembly. The humans have earned their place at this table. Whether we like them or not, whether we trust them or not, we must respect what they have accomplished. I vote to accept their terms. The vote that followed was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Humanity officially joined the ranks of the full members of the Galactic Concord. 3 centuries of waiting, 3 centuries of preparation had finally paid off. But Elena was not finished. There is one more thing you should know, she said. Prometheus is not our only ship. The hall went very quiet. We have 3 more under construction. They will be completed within the next decade. Each one will be more powerful than Prometheus. We tell you this not as a threat, but as a promise. Humanity will continue to grow stronger. We will continue to develop new technologies. And we will use that strength to protect this Concord from any threat, internal or external. She smiled, and this time there was warmth in it. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want to dominate or destroy. We simply want to live as equals among you. Give us that, and we will be the greatest allies you have ever known. Deny us, and she did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Centuries later, historians would look back at this moment as the dawn of a new era. The time when humanity stopped being the youngest species and started being something else entirely. They called it the Third Galactic Age, the age when the children of Earth finally took their rightful place among the stars. The Warden of Echoes lived for another 200,000 years. In its private writings, found long after its passing, There was one entry that scholars quoted more than any other. We spent 800,000 years believing we understood the universe. We thought we had seen everything, known everything, prepared for everything. Then the humans arrived, and we learned that the universe still held surprises. They terrified us at first. They angered us. They confused us. But in the end, they taught us something we had forgotten long ago. They taught us that the future is not written by those who wait. It is written by those who build. And humanity, they are the greatest builders the galaxy has ever seen. Elena Vasquez lived to be 112 years old. She spent her final years on Prometheus, watching the stars from the observation deck where she had once confronted the warden. She never regretted what she had done. She never apologized for the secrets humanity had kept. On her last day, surrounded by family and friends, she spoke her final words. "We started as insects," she said. "They tried to step on us, but we refused to be crushed. Remember that. Always remember that. No matter how small you seem, no matter how weak others think you are, you just have to have the courage to build." Then she closed her eyes and was gone. But her legacy lived forever, and the stars themselves remembered her name.